You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, the CJ Mars Radio Network.
Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. This is Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with your host Roger Belt and CJ John Pierre. And I'm assuming CJ is going to say hello here.
I am. You know me. I just don't want to get on the mic. How you doing, Roger?
I am doing wonderful. Our special guest tonight is Mr. Haunted, and we have had this show lined up for, about 3 weeks, and it just now hit the due date, so how are we doing, Jimmy?
I'm happier than a muskrat jumping in a pile of marmalade.
That's pretty happy.
Really happy.
Man, I was up on the website reading stuff, and there's so many interesting things, you know. I'm going to bring this up first because I couldn't find it. I was looking for it. There was an episode of Sightings that you were in, and if everybody remembers the show Sightings, they did UFOs, haunted stuff, different types of paranormal genre there. Where was you at? And kind of give us a little bit of what happened when you were there.
At that age?
No, on that episode of the show. Where were y'all at? And
right.
Kind of give us a little bit of what was going on there.
The Sightings episode was, you know how there's a lot of states that have a white lady that haunts a cemetery?
Yes.
Like probably the most famous is the one in Chicago. And
right.
We have one in Connecticut that became fairly popular. And Ed and Lorraine Warren got a deal with Sightings. They want to do an episode on the white lady, and I was one of their in their group. So they asked me if I wanted to join them and be in the filming of it, and I was like, yeah, I want to be in it. So it's basically me walking the back of them with the cameras taking pictures, but my whole career in the paranormal started at that cemetery, which is we could get to that later if you want.
Well, I read about that too, but I'm glad you brought up Ed and Lorraine Warren because that was one of the things I was going to get into. Your first experience,
right?
With the lights, being on, and you were about 10 years old, I think, and yeah.
When that thing threw my legs down?
Yeah.
You want me to tell that one?
Yeah.
Okay. I was around 10 or whatever, and I was always into the supernatural. I just always I couldn't get enough of the stuff. But back then there was only a couple of TV shows, and you're lucky if you got a book from the library about ghosts and stuff. And I was listening to an AM radio, which back then, it was just a box with 2 big dials on it. And it was daylight, the lights were on. My mother had some friends over, so she said, Jimmy, stay in bed. I have people over. So I went upstairs and laid on my stomach in the bed and was listening to the radio, baseball game. And the station started to change by themselves. Even as a kid, I said, there must be something wrong with the radio. And then I look over and the dial's moving back and forth by itself. So I start freaking out because I'm more scared of my mother if I go downstairs and bother her. And So I'm watching the dial move, and then something I had my legs kind of propped in the air. Something threw my legs down really hard in bed, and then I ran downstairs and said, "Ma, Ma, Ma, there's a ghost in my room." And she said, "Jimmy, get back upstairs. There's no such thing as ghosts." So, thanks, Ma. She just sent me back up. That's my first, weird thing that happened, I'd say. And nothing really else happens in that house. It was an isolated thing.
Now, I've got my notes here, so I kind of can, go into this stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been through what you're talking about being told there's no such thing as ghosts and all that stuff, because I saw them when I was a kid. And I was about 9 years old when I did that, and I was told the same thing. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. You just thought you saw something and all that. But I know better.
I also had one. I'm not saying I'm psychic. I think everybody's psychic to some degree, but it was my grandfather's birthday, so I knew it was April 3rd, and I was probably 4 or 5 years old, because I was sitting in the front seat with my parents in the middle, and it just popped out of my mouth. I said, "We're going to get robbed tonight." And my mother actually, no, I don't think she's listening, she backhanded me and says, "Don't ever talk like that." And I didn't even think of it. It just came out of my mouth. And when we came home from my grandfather's birthday party, our house was robbed. And we never that never happened to me before. It wasn't in my head. And then, she got mad at me for saying that. So, like you said, when you're young and people don't, believe you and stuff, it kind of shuts it off. Your ability to.
Yeah, because after they drilled that into my head for a while, I quit seeing anything. It's like it just disappeared.
Wow. And Kat said the leg thing just happened to a client. Interesting timing.
Yeah. What's he talking about? A sticky situation. I don't know.
I don't know. I like to know about that.
Muskrat and marmalade.
No. On the second, I'm on my 75th episode, and on the second episode, I said I'm happier than I just made up some kind of weird animal doing something, and then it just stuck. So I do that every episode. I make up something corny.
Okay. Early pictures, Union Cemetery, and this is where the white lady, I think, came into play here.
Yeah. Union Cemetery was, it's known for, since the early 1900s, there's been sightings of this woman in white. It's not, police officers have reported it, people that live in the area. There's one man that, he supposedly drove right through it. There's another cemetery right down the street from that they believe it's the same one that roams back and forth. A firefighter was responding to a transformer fire across from the cemetery, and his partner said, "Watch out." He was trying to find a place to park, and his partner said, "Watch out for the lady," and it was too late. He slammed on the brakes. She flew over the hood of the car and back down to the ground. They got outside to see if she was okay, and they couldn't find anything on the ground. They couldn't find a woman, couldn't find anything, and the front of their truck was damaged. And they called hospitals, and they called the police, and there's no missing people, and that's one of the stories they talked about in the sightings episode. And my belief was, we were talking about back in the olden days when there was no internet and you just heard word of mouth,
Right.
So I heard from a friend that this cemetery it's in Monroe, Easton, Connecticut, that was very haunted, and there's this white lady that just walks around. That's what I believed. But like I said, there was no internet. I didn't know how to get there, So I finally found a friend of a friend that knew how to get there, and I brought a camera and fully expected, the lady to come out so I can get her picture. And I was there for like an hour or two. Nothing happened. So I had 24 exposures, and I just took them all and said, that I would have never probably gone anywhere again. But when I got home, I got some weird images on my film, and I'm skeptical about, errors on film and, flares and dust and all that kind of stuff. But I got some stuff with some really, the cloudy white stuff that I got some cool pictures anyway. and it made me more interested. I said, let me go another week and go. And I took more, and I started getting these crazy pictures. I started meeting other people that were getting pictures there. And this place was so popular that on a Saturday night, there might be 20 to 40 people lined up on the fence taking pictures. And it's unbelievable, the stuff we're getting there. And EVPs also. It got so popular, the police had to close the whole area. You can't even park near there at dark. Like you can't even sit outside the cemetery or anything. So it was a real popular place. While I was there, I met a woman named Debbie who was looking at my pictures, and she said Ed and Lorraine would love to see these pictures. And I said, I've only seen them in college. I went to see their seminar or their slideshow. And so she invited me to their class next week. And ever since then, I went to that was the early 90s. I probably spent about a decade with them, going to classes every week and investigating for them. And it was a good time. Good time.
So that's I was going to ask you, is it basically through Ed and Lorraine Warren is how you became an investigator, so to speak?
Definitely. I did nothing investigating before, as far as, I always had an interest, and I read a ton of books because that's all I had. And they were my first people I investigated with.
Cat's asking where you went to college at.
Southern Connecticut State University. Not famous at all.
Okay, now you investigated with Ed and Lorraine for a long time, and then you decided to take off on your own, right?
Yeah, it was just, I look back now, and I when you're older, you think differently, and it was just a bunch of us. It was back then it was very competitive, just like it is now, and there was just so many people in our group that they would send us, in groups to go investigate houses, and then if we went, suppose I went to the initial investigation and did an interview with the people, they might send another group in the next week to try to get more evidence, and then you never get to go back to follow up on the case. And it's like, I wanted to stay on a case from beginning to end, and so you could chronicle the thing. And it was just like a few of us wanted to say, let's kind of just do this on our own so we could stay from beginning to end.
Right.
Because they were trying to be fair and get everybody involved. As a matter of fact, that movie, The Haunting in Connecticut, John Zaffis told me, we were talking about that, and he said,
I watched a documentary on that and also watched the movie. And of course, the documentary is way more realistic than the movie, but
yeah, the movie's terrible.
That documentary, that blew me away. Some of the stuff that they found in there, and that kid went through. God,
yeah, just being in an old funeral home, that's creepy enough.
Yeah, but then you got, you find out there's all that other crap going on, and that's weird.
And that's what I'm saying. We used to go to so many houses, I didn't even remember going there. It might have been like, we went to 5 different houses that week, and I went there for a couple hours, and I don't remember being there. But I do have a friend at work that knows the people that live in there right now, and she said that they never had anything happen to them. So hopefully that's over with.
I was going to ask a question there, and now it slipped my mind, but maybe I'll think of it again here in a minute because.
Oh, don't worry.
I got a question. Wait a minute. I got a question here. What was all the other stuff that was going on in that house that you were talking about?
The Southington?
Yes.
I remember the main thing is the boy had cancer, and they moved from New York to Connecticut to be right next to the hospital, which is literally
where he was going for his treatments at.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was 2 blocks away from the hospital. I've been to the house. I've been there 5 years ago. I just drove by it just to take a picture because, for just to have. All I remember is I think in the book they automatically thought that the kid was, I think they thought the kid was not possessed, but maybe oppressed by some evil thing. And I don't remember the whole story, but I remember they said he had like heavy metal posters on his wall, and he was into that kind of music, and like all kids are into that, you know. I don't remember the actual story of what happened in there, but there was no bodies in the walls coming out or any of that kind of stuff. It was just an old funeral home that I remember, they do claim that when they were cleaning the kitchen, she was mopping the kitchen and cleaning it, red was coming up from the floor. It looked like blood. I remember that.
That's the movie A Haunting in Connecticut. That's the case that's based on.
Right.
I got to ask you something. Do you think that hauntings can be drawn to people that are severely ill?
Definitely. And I think they follow, there's so many people I've met and interviewed that they've had incidences in, almost every place they've lived at. So I don't think every single place is haunted, but I think that person, for some reason, more people are, some people, no matter where they go, they're going to have activity because of just the way they are. For whatever reason, I don't know. Some people could live in a house that terrible things happened and nothing will happen to them. But some people live in 4 different places and they have events wherever they go. So, it's kind of weird and I can't explain it.
Well,
is it perhaps like they're the weakest link or something? You know, there's a problem because they're sick.
Excuse me.
I haven't had that. I didn't answer your question. I'm sorry. I didn't have that many people that were sick. But I did have a lot of people that had multiple. Like you mean sick as far as like cancer, depressed, or what, that kind of sickness?
Right. I mean, not in their normal strength, the weakest link, as it were.
Well, if you believe in demonic stuff, I think that it usually picks on the weakest person it can, somebody that's already beaten down.
That sounds kind of to me, CJ, like somebody that has an attachment to their self and they take it with them wherever they go.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. Most people.
We'll get into some of that a little bit later on. Actually, that was something I was going to bring up, but now that and see if you watch that movie, you know, and it's funny because a lot of people watch a movie and they'll think that's what really happened, you know. Of course, they add a bunch of stuff in movies to make it more dramatic or more horrifying or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but if you watch the documentary, I mean, it's horrifying enough in itself. You don't have to spruce it up, you know.
That's why I loved those early shows we were talking about in the, what was it, maybe 80s and 90s, because they showed both sides of the story without coming to a conclusion. They said, people claim this is happening at this place. This person says this might be the natural reason for it. And they kind of left it up to you to decide. You know, that's what I like those kind of shows.
That's yeah. How familiar with you on The Conjuring?
The Conjuring. I haven't read Andrea's books, but just the history of the place, and I believe stuff happened there because I know people that investigated the home, but and it's sad because the first group that went in there were so young. I think they were college kids, and they're starting a paranormal group, and they walked into that house, you know, with the I wasn't around for The Conjuring, and I do know people that investigated it, and I believe their stories. I don't know how close the book was to the movie because I haven't read the book, but I love that movie.
Yeah, I like the movie. I brought that up because Kat here in the chat room also does a paranormal show with us on Wednesday nights, and she just interviewed her recently. And, you know, they were talking about all that, and I was just wondering if you were familiar with all that.
The only thing I knew they tried to emphasize is the exorcism that Ed did at the end wasn't, he didn't do anything like that at that house. And when she fell through they should have a scene where Lorraine falls through like 3 floors through the.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said that's never nothing like that happened. But did you see Deliver Us from Evil?
That sounds familiar. Didn't I see that? I think I did see that.
It was with Ralph Sarchi, who also is my friend, and he was an ex New York police detective, and he used to investigate while he was a cop. And I feel really bad because his real story would have been a way better story than the movie, because they totally made up the story in the movie. I hate when they do that. Like, sometimes the real story is better, you know.
Well, see, I keep losing track because you started a group called the Hartford Office of the Paranormal.
I was part of that. Yeah, I was part of that group. There was maybe 5 or 6 of us that started that group, and we're trying to keep it small. And and we had actually it started off like we thought it was gonna be great, because we had a doctor, a nurse, a psychiatrist. I was like the photographer and videographer mostly. I used to save everything. I used to tape everything. You don't know what you're gonna get. I just used to save everything. Like I documented a lot of the stuff, and what we wanted to do is because remember the Warrens back in the 80s and 90s, they're the only group I ever heard of. I didn't even know. It wasn't like nowadays where every street has their own paranormal group.
Right.
So back then, we were getting really, on Mondays we used to have classes, and she would tell us what calls they got that week. And there were dozens of them each week, and we'd have to pick which ones were which ones needed help most.
Yes.
Ones with children in it especially, or ones that are getting injured by the thing. So we went on the worst cases, and it wasn't ever like an Aunt Jenny ghost. It seemed like we were always at pretty bad houses, and we wanted to go just to a regular house, because it was getting we wanted to get away from the real dangerous houses and just kind of keep it lighter. But one of the first cases we got with our new group was a woman. If you want me to tell you the story, there was
sure.
She was only 18 years old, and she moved into she rented a house with her boyfriend, and they didn't have much money, but they spent all the money they had fixing up the house. And I make that point because their house got trashed, and they would never do it because they don't have any money. They would trash their own house. She called us complaining that they used to hear whispers, both of them in their ears when they were going to sleep. They couldn't make out what it was saying, scratchings on the walls. They spent all their money fixing up this house. They put white carpeting on the living room floor, and they woke up one morning with a big pile of what on their floor. And the scratches they used to hear would actually rip their wallpaper, and it looks like claw marks because I took pictures of it. And they used to hear them downstairs, then they'd hear them going up the hallway. And she was worried like every night it seemed to get closer to their bedroom. So she called us and said, could you please help us? So we went there to get the initial interview, and she said, did anything happen before you lived here, or did it just start here? And she said, it just started here. We never had any problems ever in any other house. So she also started getting very argumentative with her boyfriend when she wasn't normally like that. He said she acted differently, like it wasn't her. So her parents came over during one of the interviews and told we do have some weird footage of her when she was only 13 years old, and we asked for it. And she has hours and hours of videotape of this poor little girl when she was 13. It looks like someone's like holding her wrist, and she's getting thrown from wall to wall. There's also video of her. She's laying in bed, and something's twisting her arm back and forth really fast and hard. Like I can't do it myself, with that kind of energy. And she actually, it used to twist her arm so much she broke bones in her hand and wrist. And one time she just started falling. Like each day there was a new thing that they would videotape. Of course, they thought this was medical, so they brought her to all of these specialists and spent like $30,000 trying to find what's wrong with her. They didn't have any answers. So we thought in our heads, maybe that maybe that's it could have been something paranormal that was laying dormant, and it's now it's back. And it might not have been the right decision then, but we talked to the priest that did the exorcisms for us, and he agreed to come out to the house. And the girl says, "I really don't think I'm possessed or anything, but I don't think anything's going to happen." So we weren't expecting much. So this is our first case when we were trying to get away from crazy stuff. So she sat in a chair, and the priest started doing litany of the saints. That's how he starts his prayers and everything. And immediately the girl started trying to get out of her chair, and her eyes turned like almost a different color. It was really creepy. And she started screaming. So we put restraints on her legs and arms, and these came from the hospital, so they're actual hospital restraints. She immediately snapped out of all of them. So now we were physically restraining her, and I was videotaping this just for us, because liability reasons. Suppose something happens here, and who's going to believe? You don't want an incident if somebody gets hurt and they're saying you're doing an exorcism. It's crazy.
Right.
So she broke out of all of her restraints. So we were holding her, all her limbs from getting up. She was screaming the whole time. It went on for about an hour and a half. And this is one of the happy endings, because sometimes these don't work all the time. And about an hour and a half later, she totally changed, and that was about 15 years ago, and she's fine to this day. But on our website, ABC came across that story on our webpage and asked if they could do a special on that. So we got permission from the girl, and they interviewed her, and they used my footage for it was a primetime live special they did.
That's what I was going to bring up. You were approached by a producer from ABC to do this show.
Right. Yeah. And, what's weird about that is I learned this trick now. Like I was young when I was doing this. They told the girl, she doesn't want her face on the TV, thinking,
right,
showing that she's possessed. So they said, we'll blur your face. And they were telling her, this could help a lot of people. A lot of people might be going through this too. And if they see her story, they might have the courage to speak up or try to get help. So when they got to their house, they talked the girl into just doing the, without the blur. So it's sad, because the next day she went across the street to the convenience store, and the guy says, "Hey, you were on TV last night." So I kind of felt bad after that, but.
Okay, I'm going to have to hold everybody's train of thought here for a minute. We're live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. This is Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with Roger Belt and Cindy Jean-Pierre and our special guest, Mr. Haunted. And we were just talking about a probably not too thrilling TV show that this poor girl had to live with, but anyway, and the name of this show was called The Devil Within, I think, right?
Yes.
And that's pretty much basically when, how do I put this, your paranormal career really took off, as far as people calling you and
that's what happened. Like I said, we were just a small group. We weren't looking for attention, but when you get offered primetime live, you take it. We weren't prepared for literally hundreds of phone calls each week from people all over the country saying it's usually a family member that's reaching out for their kid or their husband or their mother. And, we literally got hundreds and hundreds of phone calls, and we had to, interview all these people, because the priests we were working with, we would go by them, which one seemed like was legitimate, which one needed the most help. And these people were coming in from, St. Louis, Texas, California, Florida. We're planning, their trips, their rides from the airport, where they're staying, bringing them to the church, assisting the priest with the exorcism, following up with them. It was really, we weren't prepared for that. And, we did that for probably a solid year. Every Wednesday, we, had somebody coming in.
That's gotta be, wild though. You go from kind of being what you would consider your average paranormal investigative team to, being swooped up into the limelight,
Right. And somebody mentioned Malachi Martin in there. I'll talk about him later. Remind me if you can. It was, in the chat room they asked who was the priest. It was Bishop McKenna. And, he worked with, Malachi Martin. And, so we got hundreds of cases from around the country. And what's sad about that is I wish, then we didn't have the, abilities, but I wish we had more of a system to follow up with the people and, have more of an interview with them and a background and just like, we were just doing so much. It was hard, because we all work and, have kids and full-time jobs, and it, it affects you. You see some crazy stuff.
We run into that now because, I'm disabled, so I can't work. I'm pretty much wide open, but everybody else on my team has jobs and they have a life, and, it's kind of hard sometimes for everybody to get together when you need them. And
yeah,
it's a good thing we're not swamped, because how we'd handle it all.
And a lot of people ask me, do I believe, everyone that says if we think someone's possessed, what are the signs, and how do you know somebody's just not just like acting out, like how, and, we had, I wasn't there, but they had an incident, I think it was a 11-year-old boy who, the church pews are bolted into the concrete, the big bolts. The 11-year-old boy got up and pulled the pew right out of the concrete, and that pew's still there, standing there. You could, they just have it on a carpet, and that's what a little 11-year-old boy did. And we have people talking to different languages. Having knowledge they don't know is the kind of creepiest thing to me, more than screaming and acting out and trying to scratch you or bite you, or attacking you when they know something that they shouldn't know about one of you. That's what is scary. Like they'll say, we're going to get you. Might not be today, but you're going to get it. Your families, they threaten you. We had a police officer was in our group too. And, we had a lady from Virginia coming in, and, he was telling me while we were setting up for the exorcism in the church, he says, "Oh man," he goes, "I got into a fight with my mother last night, and I feel really bad about it, and I got to call her later because it's really bothering me." So he was telling me this while we were setting up. No one was there. When the girl finally came to get her exorcism, this lady too, she was trying to gouge her own eyes out during the exorcism. It was creepy. But this woman, during the middle of the exorcism, she just turns around and points to the police officer, and she says, "And you, the way you talked to your mother last night, that's disgusting." That gave me goosebumps like nothing else.
That's, how do you deal with stuff like that? When you're, you have something like that major going on, and then you have something like that happen.
It's where I watch these videos now, and I was like, what was I doing? I said I can't believe I was doing this. I actually just kind of get used to it when you were doing it. And it's like, it really is. It's like, I always thought if one of these people are genuinely possessed and you get them the help they need, that's a great thing. Just being involved with helping someone like that. We never got money for anything. I never got $1 I was offered tons of money and I never took it. And, like you said, you just want to investigate ghosts like a normal person. And then when you really see that you're helping people, it, kind of gives you a different, attitude towards it.
I want to bring this up real quick before we get into anything else, because this is one of the things I read on your website that I love. I really love, that you never considered yourself an expert, that we're always learning. And that's what I try to tell people. I don't care how much you've been through, how much you think you know, there's always more to learn. This field is in my opinion, still like in the newborn stage,
Right.
And nobody knows everything.
The only thing I know is there's things that I can't explain. And I've seen things that I can't explain, but I can't tell you what they are or how to definitely get rid of something. I'm, very humble in that respect that we're still learning and nobody knows all the answers. And, 100 years from now, they're going to laugh at us what we were doing now, so we're doing the best we can.
And they do that now. You have people out there, and that's one of the things that gets me about this field is you have people out there that think they know it all, and they will put other people down like, why? I mean.
Yeah, I think the competition thing is, really out of control.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and it's all about me, and, I've always said it, and I'm all for unity with other people. I always said you learn more working together than you ever will working by yourself.
Well, what is nice when you find people that have kind of the same beliefs you do, and you befriend them. When we finally got internet in the world, you could find people that you trusted in other states. And if I get a call from I got a call from Florida. And I was like, what am I going to do? I can't fly out to Florida. I work. We do that. You can find a group.
I just contacted a team in Alabama to take a case because, it's kind of like 8 hours from me. And, that's what we do.
Yeah.
It's about helping the people. It's not about the self.
Right. And, that's what I'm saying. It was nice to connect with people from other parts of the country, so it's easier for them to find help. And that is one good thing about the web, and there are bad things about it too. But that is the good thing, connecting people. But the thing that's so stupid, I stay out of that arguing and.
I never would have. The term paranormal bully never would have entered my mind until, I read some of the stuff that popped on that. But
it's weird. Back in the day, after a lot of people, you guys probably do this. After we go to a case or two, and it's 1 o'clock, and it was a particular diner we'd all meet up at after we investigated, and people knew who we were, because they recognized Ed and Lorraine, not me.
Right.
But they'd be, look at each other, whispering, making faces and stuff like, look at the weirdos over there. And now it's like they go ask for your autograph. Like that's how it changed.
Yeah.
20 years.
It's weird. Back when you guys started, with Ed and Lorraine and all them, like you said, there wasn't, a paranormal team on every block.
Right.
And it was kind of, how do I phrase this? Taboo, so to speak, back then.
Yeah,
you didn't just go around announcing that you were a paranormal investigator,
Yeah. I didn't brag about it to my friends, It was like, it was like a thing I always was interested in, and I finally found a group people that were interested in that too, and that's, that's great. And, luckily I got to, work with them. I mean, I didn't really appreciate it when I was there, because I didn't realize how, everybody knows them around the world, so I was kind of lucky.
Yeah. I mean, I always wished, that I could have met them earlier,
Yeah, I think she's almost 90.
Now, I know her health is bad. At least that's what the latest that I've heard
Yeah.
and everything. But is she still doing interviews and stuff, or?
I think she's getting so much attention now because, especially after The Conjuring came out, everyone wants to talk to her.
Right.
And her son-in-law kind of, speaks for her on the Facebook pages and stuff. And she said she's overwhelmed by all the, interview requests. And, I apologize, but she's, older now and she really can't handle all that. And, even I don't call her. I'll send her a Christmas card, or if she's doing a lecture near me around Halloween, I'll go see her. But otherwise I leave her alone because, I don't even do this anymore. I'm not actively investigating, but I still get calls from, my friend is having this happen at their house. Could you help or whatever? And I get overwhelmed by messages and, text messages and Facebook messages. So I can't imagine what they get, So it's
Right.
it's hard. You want to help everybody, but sometimes you can't.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to turn down cases and everything, and it kind of makes you feel bad, and you try to find somebody that can handle it. If you can't,
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't find somebody local to handle it or somebody willing to handle it, then them people are still suffering.
Yeah, and there's some great cases that people have messaged me about that are local, and it's something you'd want to go on just for the story. It's like, wow, what a great story that is, and I have a couple of groups around here that I recommend. I said these guys will help you. I don't have the time anymore to do that right now, so that's why I like I like doing the show like you, because it keeps me involved in the field a little bit still.
Right. Now, would you consider like going with one of these teams, maybe on one or something, just to refresh yourself, or however you want to put it?
Yeah, I would probably love to go to I miss just going to. I know people nowadays are all against cemeteries and stuff, but I just miss the whole atmosphere. Just when you go to a supposedly haunted cemetery and just hang out. Don't go inside. Just take pictures and try to get some voices and stuff. I like the places with a good story behind them. Like the.
You brought that up. Reminds me of the founder of Half Past Dead Paranormal, which is the team that I still work with. I have my own team, but also work with them. And he always talked about, I'm so bored, I'm even willing to go to a dirty cemetery, and I always crack up about that because he hates doing cemeteries. And I said, good stuff happens in cemeteries, man, Well, actually, the best picture I ever got was in a cemetery.
Yeah, me too. I think.
And it's a picture of, I call it the lady in red. It looks like a lady floating out in the field there next to the cemetery, with a red, looks like a ball gown or something on.
Yeah.
And I said, see, we weren't even expecting this, but, we captured this. And that was in a little no-name cemetery out in the boonies. And the whole cemetery is probably maybe 15 foot wide by maybe 40 foot long or so.
Yeah.
Like a little private plot that's all rolled up.
Yeah. Did it have any history behind it, or it was just?
I haven't found any as of yet. I haven't even found if it ever had a name or not. But usually, when you run into those, it's like a family plot. I figured there was probably, a house around there that, on that property somewhere at some time, and that was where family members were buried at, And
you know what? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say that all the tombstones in the family plot are late 1800s, early 1900s, and then outside of that, where they keep it cleaned up at, there's about 3 stones that are in the 40s, and they're like woodsmen of the world or something.
I think because you mentioned pictures, me and my friends were talking about this lately. I think the technology they have now is unbelievable compared to what we started with, because all we had was a camera, and you were lucky if you had a video camera, and we used a tape recorder. And
Yeah.
back then, I know there's a bunch of great apps and tools that they use to get EVPs now, but I prefer to use just a sound recorder, because you're not getting any pre-programmed voices or the radio one they have.
Right.
If you're just recording silence, if something's out, it's good. The other thing about pictures is the 35 millimeter cameras that we used to use and had to get the film developed. It seems like you used to get better pictures as far as like the ghostly pictures on that film. Is nowadays I don't see that many pictures, with the white misty stuff, because it's weird that the photoshopping that people could do nowadays and the videos that people are coming out with, it's so hard to believe what's real now, because they could make anything appear. So if you get a good hints, everybody's gonna question it all the time, like, oh, it's photoshopped or it's this.
Yeah. Well, now that picture that I didn't take it, my friend did, but I had somebody say something about it was a camera blur.
Yeah.
But it's not, because nothing in the picture is blurred. And that's the only effort to debunk that picture that's been done so far. Everybody's tried, nobody can.
Well, people complain that matrixing and pareidolia. It's like, I like finding faces and bodies in clouds. It's fun. Like people say, it's fun finding faces in this stuff.
When you talk about that, you brought that up, and I'll mention it. Shapes in clouds. Okay. No, to me, they're not paranormal.
Right.
But they're freaky.
Yeah, they're cool.
You can see some stuff in clouds and everything that'll blow your mind. Like, wow. Like you might see. I saw one that looked like a dog.
Yeah, I'm actually going to do a show in the near future about pictures of in nature that look like, like the trees that have faces in it, or look like a person. Yeah. Or they cut a pepper in half and it looks like Rocky Balboa, whatever. It's like I think that stuff's fun. That's all.
It is. It's just wild looking, because it looks so real.
Yeah.
I saw the one with the pepper.
Yeah.
And also. Like I said, I saw a cloud that looked like an angel, one that looked like a dog. I've seen trees that had look like faces in them and stuff like that. You got to wonder how that happened.
Yeah.
It's a freak of nature that you have a tree growing that looks like it has a face on it,
And all the pictures you've taken, like I'm sure you have, a lot of pictures from cemeteries and investigations. Like, yeah, people could say, that's this and that or whatever, but it's like all of them can't be not legitimate.
Exactly.
I mean, like you could say, oh, this one was a flat reflection of light, whatever, but all of them aren't. They can't be. I don't know what they are.
One of the things that gets me, and I saw this in a picture. You can actually find this cemetery on the internet. It's called Workman Cemetery, and it's not all that far from me. There was a team that went there. Well, I wouldn't even call it a team. They were just all together out there taking pictures, doing whatever. And they showed this picture of all these quote unquote orbs floating around out there, And I just, and you have this guy in the little quotation underneath. That's right. It's floating there. It's moving on its own.
Yeah. And that is the thing about orbs is I'm sure a lot of people have seen them, and we've had a lot of people, when you're investigating a home, say they see balls of light travel through rooms. But then again, I think a lot of them are dust or whatever. I never saw an orb and said, wow. Like, nobody gets excited over an orb, when you...
Oh, yeah, they do. They get mad at you if you tell them it ain't an entity.
But there was this one lady in Massachusetts that she kept pointing out. She goes, I see a purple orb with a light blue ring around it that's going around my house. And she goes, I can see it right now. We don't see it. She goes, it went outside. So I'm taking pictures to try to capture it. Like, maybe it's really there, but we can't see it. So we go outside, and after I got my pictures developed, I got just what she said, the purple orb with a blue ring around it right outside her house. So, some are probably legit, some aren't. That's all.
See, that's my thing about orbs, though. And, I've told people this over and over. I'm not saying they don't exist, and I'm not saying, I won't ever see one that I think is real, but until I do, orbs are dirt and dust and bugs and whatever, And, my philosophy, of course, is when one floats up to me and says, hey, Raj, I'm an entity, then I'll buy it. But I've never seen one that I really deep down in my gut said, yeah, that I think that's an entity,
Well, I got one story that, before I forget, because it kind of blends into this. When you find a picture of the, what do they call it, the ecto or whatever, the cloudy stuff?
Ectoplasm.
Right. Like, you could find a face in it, but if you can't find a person that it corresponds with, you can't prove anything. I was looking through my grandmother's photo album like 20 years ago on Thanksgiving, and I saw this big giant face in the corner of the picture, and it was at my aunt's wedding. And it was that clear that I showed it to her. I said, Graham, who's this lady in the picture? And she goes, that's Aunt Rochelle or whatever. I said, who is she? She goes, well, she died. That's the bride's grandmother. I said, maybe it's a reflection or something. She goes, no, she died before she was born. So it's a beautiful picture. You can see every detail of her face. I said, she showed herself at this wedding, and I said, it's been sitting here for 30 years and nobody saw this. She showed up at her granddaughter's wedding. And, so I said, could you please get me a picture of what she looked like, when she was alive? And it matches up so perfectly. So that one, I think, is so legit because you could match up, who it is, instead of just saying it looks like a face. That's the coolest picture I have. I don't even have it on my website because I don't want anybody to take it because it's the coolest one I got. And my grandmother took it, not even me.
That stuff like that's crazy though. I've seen actual stuff and pictures that people took, and I never paid attention to it until looking back through a photo album or something like years later. I'm like, what the heck is that?
I always tell people, look through your old photo albums because there's probably a treasure in there somewhere that nobody ever saw before.
Yeah. Just looking through there like years later and everything, and you're like, what the heck is that? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
And it might look like a smoky mist, like you said, or something, behind somebody, or, you might see the image of a face or something. It may not be clear, but it's clear enough you can tell it don't belong.
When I was, I taught adult education classes for 10 years at the high school. And, it was basic, like people that don't know anything about the paranormal, like total beginners thing, because I don't know that much. I'm just telling them what tips I can give them when they're investigating. And I used to show them all my, we used to call them psychic photographs. I was showing them all these photographs and saying, you can see the face here, and this was taken from this haunted house. And I was telling them, I said, don't believe me. I said, do this yourself. You know what I mean? Like, go out and do this yourself, and you'll get them. You'll eventually get them, just like EVPs. It's like, just don't give up after a day. I said, don't believe all mine. It's like, don't believe everything you see. You could go do it yourself, is what I was trying to tell them.
Right.
That made sense.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to follow the chat. I'm sorry if I missed any questions. The Malachi Martin one before. When you want to get to that one, I could say something about Malachi.
Well, that's fine. Anytime you're ready, you can talk about that.
All right. During one of the Warrens' classes, they would sometimes do a case from beginning to end for us. Did the whole interview. footage from when they were at the house, exorcisms that they would only show to us, not, they wouldn't give it to the TV or anything. It was really, we saw some really cool stuff. And sometimes we'd have guests. And one week she said, next week Malachi Martin's coming to talk. I never heard of him before. And I went to the bookstore and bought Hostage to the Devil. Read it that week. And I said, oh my God, this guy's a big deal, He was, I think he worked at the Vatican for 30 years. He advised like 3 or 4 different popes. He was way up there. And he didn't like some of the stuff the church was doing, and he was kind of a whistleblower. And I think he has integrity, and because he wanted to do what he was doing, but he didn't like he didn't like some of the stuff the church was doing. And he came to speak with us, and I purposely sat in back of the room because I wanted there was a lot of visitors that came that day, and I said, I don't want to be a big hog and sit right in the front. I sat in the back. When he walked in, the whole first 3 rows like threw themselves on the ground and were like bowing to the guy. I was like, oh my God, this guy's a big deal. And he, after his talk was over, I was in line to get my book signed, and he took me out of line, like he did the come here with his finger, and he goes, were you sitting in the back of the room there? And I said, yeah. He goes, do you know that you glow? And I said, no. And he goes, I've never seen anything like it before. He goes, the whole time I'm talking, it's like you're distracting me because you're glowing. And he goes, you're my favorite person in this room. He goes, you have some kind of thing that I never saw before. And even if I thought, I was being honest with myself, I said, maybe he says this to one person, each time he meets a group just to make it feel special. I'm not stupid. But then so I started following his Malachi Martin Facebook page. And he died in I think in the late 90s, but they have a page for his Hostage to the Devil book, and they're making it into a movie. And it's been 2 years, and they haven't been able to get the people they need to make the movie. So I started talking to the producer on the page, and I said, he goes, do you know this person here? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, could you contact them for me, because they won't answer emails. So I got them connected. I got John Zaffis involved. I got Ralph Sarchi involved. I got the psychologist that works with us involved, and I connected the people they needed to make the documentary, which they're just finishing up. And they said, we want to come. They were from Ireland, and they said, we want to come see your exorcism footage, like whatever you have. And I said, you can have whatever I have if it's for the Malachi Martin thing. I said, I give you anything you want. And then they tell me the day before they're coming to interview me. Like I said, I don't want to be I don't want to be in the movie. I don't feel I deserve to be in it. And they said no. I said, he goes, it's not like everyone in the world has 100 exorcisms on video. He goes, you were one of the pioneers doing this kind of stuff. And I said, I don't feel that way, but so I didn't I didn't push to be involved with this. I just wanted to help them get the people they needed to do it. So so that movie's coming out, I think, in October of this year, and it's more like a documentary. So I'm glad to be a part of that.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to hold you up right there. We're fixing to go to hard break. You're listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. This is Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with Roger Belt, Cindy John Pierre, and our special guest, Mr. Haunted. Don't nobody go away. We've got more interesting stuff to talk about. We'll be back in approximately 4 to 5 minutes.
With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds, ours as the beasts in the jungle, intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes, slowly and surely drew their plans against us.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, the CJ Mars Radio Network.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with Roger Bell, Cindy John Pierre, and our guest, Mr. Haunted. And we've talked about lots of stuff here. I wanted to get you to talk a little bit about what you did in the Curtis house. Yeah. And also the Lizzie Borden house.
I usually don't do the, the public places that, you pay to go to.
Right.
I usually, I don't like going to those usually, but Lizzie Borden is just, I love that story so much, and it's not far from me. So I said, I just wanted to go there to sleep over, not even investigate. I just wanted to, it was your bucket list thing. And,
that's my what's funny when I was reading about that is how you didn't intend to, but you wound up doing it anyway.
Yeah, it's totally true. We just went there to say we went. And, basically they give you a tour, and we were going to go to sleep. And there was a bunch of, 5 or 6 girls in the living room just sitting around, and it was like midnight, time to go to sleep. And I said, what are you guys staying up for? And they said, we want to see something happen. And I said, you're probably not going to see, I'm not trying to be mean, but you're probably not going to see anything. It's very rare that, all these people that claim they have like a spirit in their house, they've seen it 3 times in their life. So what are the odds it's going to happen when you're just watching for it, So I said, if you want, I'll get my tape recorder out of the car in my trunk. And I said, we'll try to get some voices. So, I don't know if she's the owner or manager. She made us a nice pot of coffee, and I right in front of everybody, like 7 or 8 people, I just put a tape recorder right on the counter, and I said, hello, does anybody want to speak, whatever. Immediately I play it back, get out. I got get out 3 times, which everybody always gets. And, immediately they came out, and I thought it was kind of sad because, ghost hunters went there with all their millions of dollars worth of equipment.
Yeah.
And they stayed for a week, and they didn't get any evidence, which, I don't blame them. It's not their fault, but they also made fun of the place, saying this is just a tourist trap, and they have a gift shop. And, they were kind of like talking poorly about the place when, I think they're very nice to us, and we got instant EVPs with just a tape recorder. And so I kind of felt bad when, they made them not look good on that show. But, I got, a few EVPs from there, and I got a picture down the basement. There's a theory that Lizzie, if she was the murderer, threw the axe down it's like a well in their basement. So I took a picture of that area, and on the wall in back of it, like 5 feet tall, it looks like a face in the wall. And it looks just like, it looks just like
her dad or whatever.
Yeah, it looks just like the father to me. The one with the...
You can make the face out, it's not like super clear, but you can make it out.
Right. And like I said, I wasn't planning on doing anything, but I have a questionable picture. It could be, it could be just our imagination, but I did get some stuff with just a couple pictures and a couple EVPs. And my wife said she got her hair pulled when we were doing the tour, and she doesn't scare easily and make up stories. And she said she got her hair pulled when they were doing the tour, and she wanted to go to bed immediately, but she was scared to stay awake. So she slept with the door open and the lights on, and like everybody's walking by all night long looking at. But it's a cool place to go. And what else did you mention there?
The Curtis house.
Yeah, the Curtis house. I only went there because I met the owner. I became friends with the owner by accident, and he was telling me that people claim the place is haunted. It's the oldest inn in Connecticut, and I guess people have been there for TV shows and stuff investigating the place. And there's one particular room where the covers supposedly, could rip off of you. The door opens and closes, and people, so a couple people have seen apparitions walking around. Nothing big or anything. So they said, you could stay over anytime you want. So I said, it'll be a fun place to go just to experiment and stuff. Because it's not like they wanted help. It was just do it for fun. So, all we had back then was a digital recorder, a tape recorder, a camera, and a video camera. And, I couldn't get an EVP. Usually I get something, even though it's not, a class A. You usually get something. I got nothing all night, and I was kind of aggravated. So, I asked every question I could, and I was like, what's your name? And I finally said, how you doing? And it said, no pain, very clearly on the thing. So I said, what's your name? And I don't remember what the name was. I have it on a tape somewhere. But I told the owner later, I said, is this name significant with the history of the place? And he showed me an article on the wall that back in the early 90s, the early 1900s, it used to be more like a saloon. And the family used to play poker with like the cowboys and stuff. And
that would have been cool.
Yeah. So apparently the story goes, one of the guys was caught cheating, and they shot and killed him and just brought him right up to the cemetery and buried him. And that was the name of the guy that got killed. I don't know if it's him or not, but I got his name, and he said no pain. I asked how he was doing. So that's all I got from that place. I went to a lot of places. I just put that on the website for, I have no idea why. It wasn't one of the better ones.
I want to get into some goodies now, because I call these the goodies because it was so interesting.
Yeah.
The cable box investigation.
Gather around the campfire, kids. This is a good one.
That one blew me away.
I'm doing all this from memory, so if I jump around, forgive me. This case was it was a Warrens case, and they asked us to go interview the people and see what's going on, and then we'd go back to them and tell them what we found. So this was the second. It was the first floor of a two-family home, and they were complaining that their cable box changes stations by itself. That was their main complaint. So we said, how did it start, And they said one night they were watching a Seinfeld rerun on a Friday night, and the cable box started flipping stations seemingly on its own. And they automatically say, must be something wrong with the cable, And they went to sleep. The next night, same thing happened. It started flipping stations by itself. And thanks, Barry. Barry loves the cable box story. And,
yeah, I just saw that.
So I think it was the son who said his cousin committed suicide a week or two before. So he said maybe it's cousin whoever trying to communicate with us. When he said that, the cable box was going from like channel 1 to 73 or whatever it went up to over and over again, like rapid fire. So they said, wow, we got something here. So the mother suggested channel 1 is A and channel 26 is Z. So they're trying to, communicate with the cable box. So they said, is anybody here? And it went to 25,519, those stations, which spells yes, according to their little code they were using.
Right.
So all night long after that, they started asking questions, and they'd write down the channels and decipher it later. So this cable box told them this whole story about how there was a man who was murdered in their home years ago. He was carried out of the home in a carpet and buried down the street. They gave a social security number, a full name. They said he's not at rest. He needs help. And the father, he was a sympathetic guy. He immediately went to the police and said, I know it's a weird story, but we think we might have a missing person that needs help. So after the police came to the house, and it's funny because this is another thing, when you walk into the room, the cable box will go to your age. almost like a greeting. So when the police officer got there, it went to like, 46 or whatever. And they said, are you 46? He's like, yes. He goes, yeah, that thing's saying hi to you. When you leave the room, it blinks your age 3 times. So like when the father would come into the room, it would go to 44. When the boy would come in, it would go to 14. And they used to have parties. They invite the neighbors over, and everybody that walks in and knew their age. So the police officers researched the social security number and the person that this was supposed to be, and nothing matched. That person never existed. The social security number existed. There's no missing person with that story. So they started worrying about, who is this that we're talking to now? Because, they're lying to us. So
right, so they knew it wasn't the cousin that committed suicide or whatever.
Right. So now they're thinking, it was like basically using a Ouija board with the TV. And they had a 14-year-old son and a younger daughter who doesn't figure into the story at all. But the one time, remember, my job was to observe and report. So my job was to give a report to Ed and Lorraine the next week on the interview and what events happened, if any. It wasn't my job to make decisions on what to do,
So you were basically feeling it out to see whether or not they wanted to go.
Right. I was getting their story, and then I would get back to Ed and Lorraine, then they would decide what to do next.
Right.
So we got their story, and the amazing thing is this cable box also gave the police officer his social security number, his children's names, his home phone number. So then he told the chief to come down here, said, you got to see this. And it answered all the questions for him too. And he said, I don't believe any of this stuff. I said, it's somebody playing a trick. The kid's doing it. And he was like, well, how does it know your social security number and your phone number, So they didn't know what to do. So they had a cable technician come and switch boxes out to say maybe this will stop it. And they got a new box and they were asking questions to it, and it wasn't working anymore. It wasn't changing stations. But when the technician left, it flashed 33 because that was the girl's age, and she ran out of there and never came back. So the thing stopped working. The cable box stopped working, but now it was almost like, when you invite something in, it used the TV to kind of get in, and then it didn't need it anymore. Now it was there. And they would have things opening and closing. They heard whispers, especially when they went to bed. They heard whispers. The boy was getting in trouble in school a lot and saying he wasn't acting like himself. It was just, we couldn't figure out what happened, because usually, on a case, you want to find out when did this start? Was there something significant that happened when it started? Did somebody die? Did you bring a new item into the house? You want to figure out what was the catalyst that all of a sudden this started out of nowhere.
Right. Did they bring something in with an attachment or?
Right. So we were asking them, did you bring anything new in the house? Did anybody die? Did you make any new friends or enemies or, all that kind of stuff? And the boy, they say, police interview people over and over again to get the real story, because sometimes things come out that never, didn't come out before. So we questioned them the next time we came over just to get their story again, and maybe we'd get some more information. And the son, the 14-year-old boy, he didn't share something with us before. He told us that he used to go visit the kid that committed suicide. He used to go visit with him in Florida often. And he said one time they went to a field, and they said, come with us. And he said all his friends stood in a circle, and they brought a goat out, and they did some kind of chanting. And then with a sword, they cut the goat's head off. And he said he saw a light go from the ground all the way to the sky. And he said, I didn't want to share that with my parents because I thought they'd get mad at me. And then after thinking about it, we said that might have been the possible, we might think he was more involved in the ceremony than he was letting on. But the night we went there, I said, we were waiting for them to get help. So he said, we can go there and say some prayers with you, and before you get the help that you need. So the night we were going there, the cable box spoke one more time. It says, "Look out tonight." So when we got there, we just had some prayers that we would use just to help it calm down anyway. And the father has the Bible on audio cassette, and he goes, "Would you mind if I played this while you're doing your prayers?" And I said, "No, of course not. It's your house." He goes, "Which one do you want to hear?" And I just pointed to a random one, and I'm not an expert. And he goes, "Okay." So he puts it in the cassette player, and it starts playing backwards. And anything backwards is creepy, but the Bible backwards is the creepiest you could hear. So I said, "Take that out of there." And we tried all the rest of them, and they all worked fine. Just this one played backwards. The night we were that same night, the boy was in another room, and he came screaming to where we were, and he pulled up his shirt, and it was this big round red. It looked like a burn mark on his stomach, like as big as a frying pan. And he says, he goes, "This creature appeared in front of me and then lowered its head and ran right into my stomach." And he goes, "This is what happened." So we basically stayed with them all night long. And the next morning we all went home, and I went to call them the next day, and I couldn't get a hold of them. And days went by, and I could never get a hold of them. And I found out later they moved. So I don't know what happened that night, and I lost contact with them. So we'll never know what happened with them. Not everything ends happy.
Well, and that's true. But if that kid doing that ceremony or whatever brought something in there and everything, wouldn't they? Well, of course they didn't know that if he didn't tell them. But he would just take it with them to the next place they go.
Yeah, and oh man, there's so much more to the story that I'm forgetting. I looked up the kid on. I was trying to find him just on the internet search, and the kid's been in trouble. So I know, he's been in and out of trouble. And but a lot of these cases, the people literally take off, and you can't find them again. It's not always, they're not always happy endings. And sadly, those are the most interesting cases because they're very unique.
That one caught my attention because, you don't hear a lot of talking cable boxes and all that kind of stuff.
And the witnesses, I have a copy of the police report. All the witnesses that saw it do this and answer questions that nobody could know was amazing to me.
Yeah, and could you imagine this police sergeant or whoever, sitting at his desk going, "What did I just witness?" Mm-hmm. Like, this is impossible. And a lot of people who don't deal with this kind of thing, when something like that happens, they're just like, "I'm losing my mind." Should I go check myself into a rubber room? Or they don't know how to deal with that, because it's not a normal thing to them.
And it is sad because, after we stay there for as long as we do, we get to go home, but they have to stay there.
Exactly.
It's like you feel helpless sometimes,
Well, and sometimes whenever a team goes in, things may calm down, by the time they leave, but it actually gets worse after they leave, and the people are having to deal with it, so.
That's one thing Lorraine and Ed, always told us. And that was one of the first things they told us. They said, when somebody reaches out for help and contacts you, they said the stuff's going to disappear or pick up, like it's going to go away because it doesn't want anybody to come in there and get involved, or it picks up because it's mad. So, and that's usually the case too.
CJ brought up, she bets that you'll get a call from that kid somewhere down the road.
Yeah, I was trying to find him in, I guess he lives in Florida, but I didn't have any address or anything. There's a lot of people that I'm still from, 20, 15 years ago, old they call them clients nowadays, but we still exchange Christmas cards, and it's kind of nice to keep in touch with them.
Well, yeah, you want to know how they're doing, as time goes by. And usually, after the first, like week or so, you want to make sure you find out what's going on and, are things better or, are things still going on or, how are y'all doing and all that kind of stuff. And I think, at least maybe for the first month, you should contact them fairly regular and check on them, make sure everything's okay. And you still can, after that, but I don't think it would have to be as frequently, but just stay in touch and see, how things are.
I got the,
I have went to places and it's like you said, people can be claiming all this stuff is going on. And it's not that I doubt them, but we get there and we stay there 3 or 4 hours and get absolutely nothing, Yeah. And, the term I like to use is they don't always come out and play,
Right. Like I said, if you have somebody tells us they have they saw a spirit apparition in their house 3 times that year, what are the odds that I'm going to catch it that 4-hour window that I'm there? It's not like I don't believe them. It's just, you never know when they're going to come out and play, like you said.
And they're used to the people that they're tormenting.
Yeah.
Soon as you leave, the stuff may start up again,
I got what did you want to talk about? I forget. The missing muffins or the
Oh yeah, see, I didn't know about the missing muffins. I didn't see that, so you have to explain that one.
Well, I usually call my cases like I try to get a Scooby-Doo name for them. This one's the case of the missing muffins, and this was one of my favorites because a lot of people, it's just like when you're interviewing them, you just don't believe them, So this was a couple that was they were on the second floor of a 3-family home, and they were very young, like in the 20, 21 years old, and they had a 3-year-old boy, and Lorraine called us up one night and said there's a case in Waterbury, Connecticut, that the person will not go inside the house until somebody gets there. Like, that's your dream to hear that, like, holy mackerel. So I said, we'll go, me and my friend Rick. So we went there, and she literally was sitting on the front steps. She would not go inside her house. So she was on the second floor. So we went up to the stairs there. We couldn't open the door. It was like it wouldn't open. So I said, "Can we go around the back?" And she goes, "No, that the back door has been closed off. Like, you can't even use the back door. It's like nailed shut with the boards." So we were doing the police thing, like trying to bang the door with our shoulder. And finally the door opened, and an exercise bike flew across the room. Not supernaturally, but it seemed like the handle was wedged underneath the doorknob.
Right.
So, like, when she left, it seems like that bike settled under the door to lock her out or whatever. And that was pretty creepy as soon as we walked in. So our first thing we usually did is sit them down and interview them and, tape it and videotape it. And we're trying to get her story. And she said her little son, I think he was 3, he was complaining that some little boy was hitting him at night, and he had black and blues. She was complaining she saw a white figure around the house all the time. And while we're talking to her, she's pointing right at it. She goes, "There it is. Don't you see it?" And we're like, "No." She's crying. "Don't you see this thing?" And we're like, "No, I'm sorry, we don't see it." So she was very frustrated. So then, she said another odd thing is when I bake something, I put it on top of the refrigerator so the kid can't reach it, even with a chair. He's 3, he couldn't get to it. So she'd make muffins and put them on top of the refrigerator, and she'd go out shopping or whatever, and she'd come back home, and they'd be gone. And then like a week later, she'd find them stacked in the closet, all the muffins.
Huh.
One day, the little boy, they had company over, and the boy was playing in the living room, and he started crying. He's like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, what is this?" And he pointed behind the couch, and there was a stack of chocolate chip cookies that were missing from another time. And then we got her to talk to the neighbor also, and they said the previous people had the same thing happen to them, missing items, then finding them in other spots. What else happened? So then this is the biggest mistake of my life. We didn't believe her. Like, because we didn't see this thing she kept pointing to. And she was like, crying hysterically, like, can't you see this thing? So she said it went into the bedroom. She goes, it just went in there. So we leave all the camera equipment and everything in the kitchen. We're interviewing her, and we all walk into the bedroom, and we see this thing right against the wall, like about 8 feet away, standing there, like a perfect human shape. It was like, it was very light gray, and it looked like a male figure, and it was just standing there. She said, do you see it now? I said, yeah, we do see it. And my dilemma was, do I go back and get my camera to try to capture this, or do I enjoy what I'm seeing because you don't see this that often? So I didn't know what to do. And my friend Rick says, why don't we go try to touch it? So we took like one step towards it, and it turned to its right and took one step and disappeared right before it got to the wall. So, now we believed her. And what else happened there? And then since she was only 20, her mother would come over a lot to give her support and hang out with her because she was so scared of the house. And the little kid had blinking sneakers. When you walk, they blink.
Right.
So the mother said she swears that she walked by the boy's room and saw the sneakers like take 2 steps. And she goes, they blink for no reason whatsoever. So, and all other people in the house said that they sit there blinking all the time. So, I was thinking, probably defective sneakers, but, who knows? So I put the, video camera on the sneakers, hoping they would move, and nothing was happening. So I was thinking most of the stuff happens in the house when no one's home, like the muffins and the cookies and all that. So I said, let's act like we're leaving and, keep the camera on the sneakers. So, we go down the stairs for like 20 minutes, and we go back upstairs, and, they're not doing anything. And then we play the tape back, and like they blinked the whole time we were gone. It doesn't prove anything, but, it was a cool thing.
Right.
And the kid also.
For just a second, we're live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. This is Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with Roger Belt and Cindy John Pierre, and our special guest, Mr. Haunted. And I'm a little bit late on that, but oh well. Anyway, they blinked the whole time you were gone. Then they quit when you come up, and
yeah. Well, then there's it's not the end of the blinking story. Is there something cool that happened afterwards? I said, they were in the process of moving out. They said, we're renters here and we're not going to stay. So they were leaving things behind that they didn't want. And the sneakers, they said, we're not taking the sneakers. We don't want them in our new house. So I said, can I have them? He's like, the Warrens have a museum. It's like, I tried to collect items for myself too. And, so I brought them home and put them on our TV set. And this is back when TV sets were like wooden on the floor,
Yeah.
So we also typed up a report of the events of the evening, on a couple sheets of paper, and I put the sneakers on top of the paper on top of the TV. It was also around Halloween time. So my whole house was decked out with, Halloween decorations, like ones that are, you have to clap and they move, and, they're crazy. I have a bunch of them. So the next night I went out to this house to do an all-nighter, and my wife had no idea what happened in that house yet. So she's watching a scary movie at night, and she sees the sneakers on the TV and says, and says to herself, well, what are those? And then she goes over to it and sees the report, and she's all by herself, and now she's reading what happened in the house and the deal with the sneakers. So she starts freaking out, and she's staring at the sneakers now, and they started blinking at her, and all the Halloween decorations started going off by themselves. The welcome mat went off by itself outside the door. I have all these skeletons and witches hanging from the ceiling. They were all going off. So she had a hell of a night that night. And I came home about 5 o'clock in the morning, and the sneakers were outside on the doorstep. And she goes, never again, never again. You're not going anywhere else. But
So you got your home papers, in other words.
yeah, I got in trouble.
That's cool, though. I wanted to get you to tell everybody about the poltergeist story, too.
The poltergeist story, that was, I call it a
Mark and Amy.
Oh, sorry. I call it a poltergeist. It wasn't a typical poltergeist story. It didn't fit the criteria, but I call it poltergeist just because it sounds cooler, because I couldn't think of a name for it. This couple in their mid-20s, when we interviewed them, their first instance of anything happening was around Christmas, and they saw an elderly couple looking at their Christmas tree, but you could see through them. They said you could see the man had a red plaid shirt on, and it looks like the couple was admiring the tree, like they liked it. And that was the first thing that happened. Then they'd also hear voices, but they couldn't make out what they were saying. I call it a poltergeist because one night when it was one of those things where there was a 20-minute window they weren't home. The wife went shopping, and then the husband came home from work. There was only a 20-minute window, and nobody was in the house. They have an alarm on the house. They came home, and their living room was totally rearranged. The two sofas they had switched spots. The TV was in a different spot. The whole house was rearranged. They'd come home to all their drawers open, and they'd be money and jewelry in the drawers, but they weren't stolen. They were just all opened up. One creepy thing that happened was they had a washer and dryer room where they had this bag of clothespins, and the wife was doing the laundry, and the dog was barking outside, so she left for 2 minutes. When she came back, every clothespin that they had, maybe 20 to 30 of them, were clipped onto the pull string for the light in the laundry room. They had what else? Oh, one night they woke up in the morning. All their kitchen chairs were slashed with 3 claw marks on each chair. I'm trying to think what else happened.
Wasn't there claw marks in the wallpaper or something too?
That was at the no, that was just at that Massachusetts house. They just scraped the I don't remember they trashed the house pretty good. I'm trying to remember all this stuff. If you remind me if you read something that I forgot. This story, this is such a mess, because it doesn't fit into a category. The first time we ever went to investigate it, the 25-year-old woman has a sister who is high school age, and the mother called the house and said, "Are the people there?" And she's like, "Yeah." Why? She goes, "Because your sister is holding her left hand is going back and forth in circles, and she's catatonic." So she goes, "I don't know if it has something to do with what's going on at your house." So I said, "Well, let's go over there." So we went to the mother's house, and the girl is just sitting there with her left hand moving around in circles. And I said, maybe she wants to write something. So I put a pen in her hand, and she was writing, "Get out of the house, get out of the house," on a notebook paper. And then it started affecting the sister over that house. It was just something that there's so many things that were going on that it just didn't fit in a category. Usually a poltergeist starts and ends at a certain time, and then what else happened there? Yeah, I'm getting old. Oh.
Was it something about the parents dying and leaving the house to the dog?
Oh, thank you. That's the nice finish off of this one. We found out when asking neighbors that the house was previously owned by elderly, two elderly women there, and I think they were twins, and they only had a daughter and a son. The son was like a career criminal, drug addict. He was always in trouble, and the two ladies left it to the daughter only, and the brother was kept out of the will. We found out that the son either committed suicide or overdosed on drugs, and it coincided, which we found out when it was. It coincided when all the stuff started happening, all the furniture moving, the opening of the drawers. Their alarms used to go off all the time for no reason. The fire department, the police used to show up all the time. There was no signs of break-in. It was all done from inside the house. And I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton of stuff, but it almost fits in. Like some things don't have a neat ending, but it seemed like it was the spirit of the son, because he wasn't happy about the situation. And they left also. They sold their house, and that was 15 years ago. And I know someone that lives on the street, and they said it's constantly for sale. So we don't know what happens.
Well, yeah, and you had said that it was, I guess, had two new owners, and it was back on the market again. So
yeah, that was way back then.
So I'm assuming that the son was really disappointed. But,
yeah, he didn't like it. That's what we believe anyway.
That's stuff, though.
Yeah.
Our time is flying by,
yeah.
And I wanted to talk about the exorcisms being not the haunted house, but the haunted people.
Right.
And I also wanted to get Dudleytown in here because that one really interested me.
Oh, do you want to talk about exorcism story? Like one of the stories?
Basically, just for the people who don't realize, not every situation in a quote unquote haunted house is necessarily the house that's haunted. It can be the person that's haunted or attached.
Right. Not a haunted house, a haunted person.
Yes.
Right. This is I could do this. I'll try to do this quickly. Like I said, we wanted to just investigate ghost stuff, but because of the TV show, we got a lot of possible possessions. One girl from New York, her mother called us for help, and she was talking in different languages, different accents. She said felt like there was somebody inside of her. Her one night her feet blew up to like 3 times their size. Went to the emergency room. They couldn't find anything wrong with it. She showed us the reports. And this lady was a model. She was very small. And one day her stomach blew up to like 9 months pregnant size. Went to the hospital. Couldn't find anything wrong with her. Her mother claims she stayed with her a lot because she was worried about her. And she said while she was taking a nap, she'd be floating above the bed like 2 to 3 feet. And she would call her son to come over and push her back down. But she didn't want her to wake up and see that was happening. She agreed that she would try an exorcism. And this is another thing. We said, when did this start? Why did this all of a sudden start happening to you? What was the day? And it started either it was November 1st, 2nd, or 3rd or something. And when I researched that, I said, is there anybody that would be, angry with you? And she just started a new modeling agency. And there was this Haitian girl who seemed to be jealous of her. And she said she invited me to a party, though. And she was at the party. It was a party like I never seen. She goes, it was really weird. They were dressed up weird. They had weird food. It was part of the religion, she said. And then we said, did you eat or drink anything there? And she goes, I really don't remember a lot of stuff, and I didn't drink any alcohol. but they did give me a drink and I did eat stuff. So, she goes, now that you say it, she goes, it was, I said, I researched it and it's their Day of the Dead that they, have a party to celebrate the dead and invite them to come live among the living for the day. And, ever since then, this is when this stuff started happening to her. So, she had, one exorcism and it didn't, fully work. And we had so many different people scheduled for exorcisms. The priest said, I got to put her in 3 weeks. We can't fit her in. So, she lived on like a 50th floor of a skyscraper in New York. And she said she was worried that she was going to jump from the window. So like, again, we said we brought our prayer books with us and, holy relics, holy water, holy candles. We brought everything we could to, just keep it at bay, just to do something instead of, ignoring her. I didn't want anything to happen. So, we got permission to go see her. While we were there, all we were doing was, starting prayers and, she started talking and, she put her head down and then she looked up at us and only the whites of her eyes were showing and she was looking back and forth at both of us and saying, "Who are you?" And like this man's voice with a Jamaican accent. And he goes, I said, "What do you want? Who are you?" And he goes, "All I want is a bottle of rum and I'll get out of here." Then she turned into this old woman's voice. Then she turned into this old Jewish man from New York's voice. It's hard to explain, but she was sitting on the bed and she laid back in a weird position. And then she like popped up from the position, which is, I can't explain it, but it's like almost physically impossible to do the way she rose up and sat up. While we were there, we were putting, random items on her back. And the only thing that she pulled from instead of burns was a first class relic that I had. And, I'm trying to think what she said to us. She said, "I'm just an old man. I want to kill her." And, we said, how did it get inside of you? And it said, through her mouth. And, she vomited like 3 times, which, is very common during exorcisms. They do vomit. And actually that one has a happy ending. She's, free of all her symptoms now.
Cool.
I'm sorry, I'm probably missing a lot of details, but,
Well, I mean, it's interesting, even, as you told it. Dudley Town. I love Dudley Town because of all the interesting things that happened before they settled in Connecticut.
right. Dudley Town is our local, I guess every state has, a part of the woods that are haunted or something and has a history. But, Dudley Town has been called the most haunted place on earth. I'm paraphrasing my website here. It was founded in 1740 and it used to be a regular town with streets and houses. And now it's just woods with, so you can see some of the old stone roads, but if you didn't know they were there, you wouldn't even know it was a street. The houses there are only cellar holes now. And, the Dudley Town started when there was a supposed curse given to the Dudley family 500 years ago from King Henry VIII. All tragedy happened after this. In 1510, King Henry VIII beheaded Edmund Dudley. 1533, Edmund's son John beheaded in plot to overthrow the king. John's brother and wife were beheaded in another plot. So the Dudleys figured, let's get out of here. So, in 1740, they settled, in Cornwall, Connecticut, and they called it Dudley Town. All crazy stuff happened in this town. One of the, brothers went mad and, his brother was cut to pieces. This guy, Nathaniel Carter, was found hacked to pieces. Another guy went nuts. He was complaining of seeing ghosts and demons. One of the, woman was killed and struck by lightning. Another guy went crazy and hung himself. It was like, just for the amount of people there, the percentage of tragedy to all of them were terrible. One guy complained about seeing cloven-hoofed beasts running through the woods. And it's a hot spot for activity. I've gotten great pictures, and they were going to do a special on CBS around Halloween. They bought all the truck equipment up there with the cameras and stuff, and all their equipment died at the top of the hill, so they couldn't even do their special. And while I was investigating the place, I would leave when it started getting dark, and I would see the Satan worshipers come in at night. And they weren't like 14-year-old kids, they were adults with the robes. And so, even if it wasn't cursed before, with all the satanic activity up there, it's not good news. I had the Ouija board story, if you want to. I was up there one night, and I don't recommend this to anybody. I was being a goof. There was 3 kids up there playing with the Ouija board, and it wouldn't work. They said it doesn't move. And I used to do this when I was a kid. I used to play with it, and I could do it by myself. So I said, I'll show you how it works, whatever, being a jerk. And as soon as I did it, it started moving, and it spelled out all 3 of the kids' names instantly. And it says, you might have heard us say our names before if you're spying on us, so I don't believe you. I said, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to ask? And it says, if you tell us what car we came in, I'll believe you. So this was a place you're not supposed to be. You're not supposed to be here. So everybody used to park far away. So I didn't know what car they had or whatever. I was expecting it to say Pontiac or something. It spelled out M-O-M. And just when it spelled that, all 3 of them ran down the hill and just took off and left their Ouija board. And then it ended on S. So I guess they took their mom's car to go up there. And I have a picture on my website there with me holding the board that they left with this praying mantis looking thing next to me. And what else happened? Oh, and then I also hear, one day I was there on the main trail, and I heard like horses, like with a horse and carriage type thing. Yeah. I heard it from a distance, and I'm like, wow, that's weird. And then it got louder and louder and louder, and went right past me, and went the other way. I didn't see anything, but I heard it. And there's one story that people went up there, and they left in a rush because they got scared of something, and the driver of the car, they saw something in front of their windshield supposedly, and the driver died, and the passenger survived to tell the story that I guess they challenged whatever was up there. But about 10 years ago, 40 acres of it burned down from a camper, so no one's allowed there anymore. So, and then I got one more. One of the old the cellar foundations, I was taping in there, and I just left it there for half an hour and listened back later, and it sounded like little kids in a classroom, like giggling, and that was supposedly the old school. We could do an hour on Dudleytown.
Yeah, and it's like I said, that one was really interesting because of everything that happened before the town was even founded or created or whatever, and then all the stuff that happened afterward.
Yeah, there was just hysteria, a suicide, murder, and I think Dan Aykroyd, who's a big paranormal enthusiast, he called Dudleytown the most haunted place on earth. That's where I got that quote from.
I like Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He also did an interview about UFOs too.
Yeah, that was a great interview.
It was.
I saw that.
Okay, so why is Dudleytown the most haunted town on Earth?
This is what he said. For people that go there, it was supposedly cursed. The king had a curse put on it. Because all the people, it's a longer story, but a lot of people that lived there said they seen these cloven-hoofed beasts run around the woods. There are a ton of people murdered and hacked to death. And because of all the tragedy, they said that it's a cursed place. Like nothing would grow there. That people, the whole town left. Like that's why it just kind of turned into a dirt road and the houses crumbled because it was basically a town that everybody just abandoned and left. If you want to look it up at your leisure, you can have more details about it. But everyone, they've gotten great pictures up there, and I don't think it's the most haunted place on earth. That's what Aykroyd said. I'd like to know what the most haunted place is.
Now, he may have not have been to the actual most haunted place on earth, I'm sure, but whenever you experience something like a place like that, automatically in your mind, it's the most haunted place you've ever seen. So, man, this is the most haunted place on earth, or in the U.S. or whatever,
Yeah, it's a cool story. Cool story behind it. I like the story behind the stuff.
Mars says Dudley Town, sometimes referred to as Village of the Damned, was founded as a small settlement in Cornwall, Connecticut in the mid-1740s. So he actually looked it up.
Yeah. We used to go there all the time, but now you're not allowed there at all.
Yeah, Data said with real estate being at a premium, you'd think someone would have rebuilt something there, but...
Yeah, the people that live in the area created I don't know what you call it, like a group that bought the land, so no one could. They made it private property, so no one could all the teenagers would go up there and hang out all night and bother them because their house is right next door. So they bought most of that property, so to keep people out.
I would have figured they would have bought it to preserve it or something, but
yeah. But it is expensive up there to live in that area.
Data said Aykroyd was sister's neighbor. That's pretty cool. But anyway, we've got about 3 minutes left. Man, this time has just flew by.
Yeah.
It's been awesome having you on, and if you have any links you want to put out or whatever, this would be a good time to do that.
Thank you for having me. We're on our 75th show on it's called The Haunted Chronicles on paramaniaradio.com. It's Friday nights at 8 Eastern, and this week we're doing listeners' ghost stories, call-ins, and stuff like that. That's my favorite
that's cool.
topic. I miss Art Bell's Halloween night when everybody calls in with their ghost stories. Thanks, fellas.
Okay. Is any other links you want to put out? Website?
No, I'm. If you want, I'll put my name in the chat. If anybody isn't my friend on Facebook, you could add me if you want. There you go.
Can I get in here for a second? And we have to announce that a show that was supposed to have aired Saturday night has been moved to next Saturday night. And that, of course, is the Evening with Bo Jerkhart. And everybody can tune in at 9 o'clock and hear everything that's going on. And I wanted to get that out there before the show ended so everybody knows. We posted it, but a lot of people were asking me about it, so I figured I'd better do that. Roger.
Yes.
Okay. It's about, what time is it now?
2 minutes.
Okay, we've got 2 minutes. Can we get any more information or anything that, where we can go see Jimmy's, maybe his website or whatever?
If you type in Mr. Haunted, usually with no space after the Mr., all my links come up. And somebody recommended, because I typed it in the chat room, and there might be people listening not in the chat, that my Facebook name is Jimmy, last name is Petonito. That's my Facebook page. MrHaunted.com is my website, and you can find everything. If you type in Mr. Haunted, everything comes up on that. Or Google or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say MrHaunted.com. and Mr. Haunted on Facebook. And
Yeah.
if you're not friends, send him a friend request. Jimmy's an awesome guy, and it's been a real honor having you on here. I want to thank everybody in the chat room. Everybody on your iPhones, Android phones, tablets, computers, however you're here, we couldn't have a show without you. We really want to thank everybody for showing up. Next week, everybody, Christopher St. Booth. Be there or be square.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, he is. Bye-bye, y'all.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, the CJ Mars Radio Network.